a few things that I had wanted to say about the gospel reading today, because the dialogue that Jesus has with the Samaritan woman is a model for how confession works, but equally so is a model sometimes for us as to how we engage in difficult situations. All right? So Jesus engages with her, or there are 7 distinct engagements that Jesus has with the Samaritan woman. And each one goes deeper and deeper. So sometimes what happens when we are engaging with somebody, let's say, for example, to talk about the Orthodox faith. Somebody who is not of the faith comes to us and they say, "What's that Orthodox faith all about?" And then all of a sudden we launch into this great theology of who we are, we're the old faith, the great schism, and by that time they're lost in space. All right? Is this what Jesus does when he engages the Samaritan woman? No. The very first exchange is a simple request. And he comes and he says, "I would like a drink." He engages her on a human level at where she is. "I'd like a drink." And that begins the dialogue, because her question back to him is, "Well, wait a minute now. I know that you people, the Jews, don't like Samaritans, so why would you come and ask me for a drink?" So in our conversation that we're going to have with somebody, then that might be then the opening line, that we don't engage immediately with the history of the Orthodox Church, but maybe we say, we can do a couple of things. You know what? Why don't we sit down and have a talk about that? Or, you know what? I was thinking that maybe what is it that you know about the Orthodox faith? So you ask them for something. It's the same thing that we do when the priest responds to confession. We sit down first and we have a dialogue. How are you doing? What's happening in your life? How is your brother and sister? Is your mom out of the hospital yet? We don't launch immediately into, okay, now I need to hear a list. Where's your list of sins? And let's get this confession done and let's get into the details. No, we do what Jesus does with the Samaritan woman. We engage on a human level first. We ask, how are you doing? In the second exchange now, the woman stands and listens to Jesus, and now he reveals himself as the living water. So he says, do you know what it is that you are asking for? And she says, I want this drink. And so he says, yes, there is a living water that doesn't come from here. But she's not quite understanding it yet. And it's the same way now that we would have a discussion with somebody about the Orthodox faith. We wouldn't again launch right into our deep theology, but we would say, we believe that the Orthodox faith is the fullness of the faith. That's our next statement, because it draws a question. Fullness of the faith, what does that mean? What does that mean and how are you saying that? All right? In now that third exchange now, she answers back and says, wait a minute now. Are you saying that the water that we got here is better than this water that you're talking about? And so she's interested and she wants to engage him. So she's asking him a question. And he comes back and he says, believe me, if you knew what this was, you shall no longer thirst. For anybody that drinks this water is going to thirst, but anybody that drinks the water that I give them will no longer thirst. Same way in the conversation. Now we build that person along, and what we mean is the fullness of the faith is that we believe that every Christian has the potential to attain the kingdom of heaven. But if you want to truly drink the living water of understanding, then we believe that it's the Orthodox faith. Because drinking of this water, you will no longer have thirst. whereas maybe some other religious expressions have left you thirsty. And the true meaning is that many times those that come to be interested in the Orthodox faith, and certainly on our Q&A show, have not received the fullness of living water. And this is why they listen. They want to know, where is this living water that Jesus is talking about? So we're drawing her in, or he is drawing her in. And now, with this fourth exchange, he gets to the heart of who she is and what is the stumbling block to her believing. And he says, go and call your husband. He doesn't accuse her. He doesn't say, and I as a prophet know that you have had 5 husbands and you're not even married right now. And this is not the way that confession goes. We don't immediately say, I saw what you did. I know what you did. Yes. And certainly now you need to confess the sin of XXX. No. We say, and we engage in this way. He says, go and call your husband. It's not accusatory. Go and call your husband so that the two of you may receive the fullness of this living water. And that's when the confession comes. And she answers him and says, I have no husband. And then begins the confession. And from the confession then comes into now the last exchange. I know that the Messiah comes, because she now understands who has been speaking to her, that has been slowly revealed to her in this very humble and very pedagogical way. Yes, I know words that have 3 syllables or more, all right, just in case you were wondering. And so this is how Jesus educates us, and this becomes our model for how we educate those who ask us about our faith. We start with the human interaction, we answer the human call. Come, let us sit down and talk. Come, let us have a drink. Come, let us have a meal. And now we can begin that dialogue. And now as the people are drawn in, now we can explain at this last exchange the depth of who we are, because they're ready to hear that. It's the same way with confession. It has to start the way it starts here with Jesus. A human interaction. How are you? How are you doing? And then from that then builds, and we let the person then open up confession. Confession is not about, tell me what your sins are. Confession is about letting that person bring those confessions forward by just a simple and a humanistic or something that touches their humanity to bring them then forward. This is one of the lessons to learn from the Samaritan woman.